The sea that vanished. Imagine waking up one morning to find the ocean gone. Not receded, not dried along the edges. Gone. Completely. And imagine the ships, still standing where waves once carried them, stranded forever in the sand. This is not fiction, not mythology, not a cautionary tale from centuries past. This happened in our lifetime, and its skeleton lies in Central Asia, where an entire sea simply disappeared. Its ghost ships still stand today, silent, rusting, accusing. This is the story of the Aral Sea, a place that went from being one of the largest lakes on Earth to one of the greatest environmental disasters ever recorded. And the question at the heart of this documentary is haunting. How do you kill a sea? There was a time when the Aral Sea dazzled the world with its impossible beauty. Spanning hundreds of miles, it appeared like a sapphire jewel set into the deserts of Central Asia. Generations grew up along its shores. Families fished its waters. Canneries ran day and night. Children played in the shallows. The sea supported millions, directly or indirectly. The Aral Sea was so vast that some residents said, when you stare across it, you're not looking at water, you're looking at a universe. But that universe began collapsing the moment powerful hands, far away, decided to reshape nature itself. White gold. During the mid-20th century, Soviet leaders pursued an enormous, almost defiant ambition to turn the dry steppes of Central Asia into the world's largest cotton-producing region. Cotton, called white gold, was valuable, profitable, and symbolic of progress. But cotton is a thirsty crop. And the engineers in Moscow drafted a solution that would change the face of the earth. Divert the rivers, starve the sea, feed the fields. The two mighty rivers that fed the Aral Sea, the Amu Darya and the Sur Darya, were redirected into colossal irrigation channels. Canals stretched for thousands of miles. Some were efficient. Many leaked disastrously. But the priority wasn't sustainability. The priority was output. The builders believed the Aral Sea would shrink slightly, stabilize, and continue to exist. They were catastrophically wrong. By the 1960s, the water flow into the Aral began to slow. In the 1970s, it declined sharply. By the 1980s, it became clear that the sea wasn't shrinking. It was collapsing out of existence. A sea in retreat. Locals first noticed subtle signs. The shoreline dipped just a few feet. Catches were smaller. Boats traveled a bit farther to reach deeper water. People shrugged. They said, nature changes. But nature was not changing. It was suffocating. Every year, the sea retreated faster. Boats that had never been on dry land now sat crooked on mud. Fishing docks became wooden piers stretching into emptiness. Children who once swam after school now played soccer on what used to be the ocean floor. Satellite images showed a disaster unfolding in slow motion. The Aral wasn't dying, it was evaporating out of existence. By the 1990s, 90% of the sea was gone. The world had created a new desert, the Aralkum Desert, where ocean waves once rolled. And in the middle of that desert, the ghost ships. Nothing prepares you for the sight of Moynaq, Uzbekistan, once a booming harbor, now 60 miles from the nearest water. The old fishing fleet still sits where it died. Massive steel trawlers, shredded with rust. Refrigerator ships resting on their sides like toppled whales. Naval patrol boats marooned in the sand. Their purpose erased. These ships seem frozen mid-motion, as if the sea vanished in a single night. Visitors describe the place as post-apocalyptic. Scientists call it one of humanity's greatest environmental failures. Locals simply say, "This is where our lives ended." The silence is unsettling, almost sacred. You can hear the wind whistle through holes in the steel hulls, like the ships themselves are trying to speak. The ghost ships testify to the day the water left. The human cost. When the sea died, so did the region's economy. Thousands of fishermen lost work overnight. Canneries closed, food processing plants collapsed. Families who had lived by the sea for generations became climate refugees. But the environmental toll was even worse. The exposed seabed wasn't ordinary sand. It was toxic. For decades, agricultural chemicals, pesticides, insecticides, and fertilizers washed into the Aral Sea. When the water evaporated, all of it remained. Now, every gust of wind sends contaminated dust swirling through nearby towns. This dust travels for hundreds of miles, spreading illness across Central Asia. Hospitals saw spikes in respiratory diseases, throat cancers, liver issues, childhood asthma, and birth defects. Entire communities were trapped in a cycle of sickness. For many residents, it wasn't just a sea that died. It was a future. Rahmatullah Karim. To understand the emotional weight of this disaster, you only need to meet one man. Rahmatullah Karim, now in his 70s, spent his whole life as a ship mechanic in Moynaq. When he speaks of the sea, his voice softens. He remembers the smell of the salty breeze, the soft slap of waves against metal hulls, the sight of sunlight glinting off endless blue. He remembers the pride he felt walking aboard the Pobeda, his favorite ship. He remembers taking dates to the beach. "The sea looks so big," he told them. "It must be touching the edges of the world." Today, his children have never seen a sea in Moynaq. Only pictures. Only ghosts. A framed picture of the Aral hangs above his fireplace. Outside his window, miles upon miles of pale, poisonous dust. Rahmatullah doesn't cry. He doesn't need to. You can hear the mourning in his silence. What happens when the world looks away? For decades, no one outside the region truly understood what was happening here. Scientists sounded alarms, locals pleaded for help, governments shifted responsibility. The sea continued to die. But then, a spark, a turning point, a place where hope returned. The miracle in the north. Kazakhstan refused to give up. Partnering with the World Bank, the government took a bold, scientifically precise approach. Rather than try to save the entire Aral, which was impossible, they focused on reviving the northern section. In 2005, engineers completed the Kok-Aral Dam, a massive project designed to catch and concentrate the flow of the Surdaria River. No one expected miracles, but miracles happened anyway. Within just a few years, water levels rose dramatically. Salinity dropped, fish returned, bird species repopulated. Local temperatures stabilized. Jobs reappeared. Fishermen who had abandoned their boats now returned to their trade. Aralsk, once miles from water, became a port again. The North Aral Sea, is today one of the greatest environmental comeback stories on Earth. A clear reminder, if we act in time, nature can still forgive us. The South, however, remains a desert. But where hope rises in the North, heartbreak deepens in the South. Uzbekistan's portion of the Aral, especially the eastern lobe, has almost completely dried up. The land is cracked and colorless. Salt storms rage across the new desert. With no realistic chance of water returning, the Uzbekistan government is taking a different approach, trying to tame the desert itself. Workers plant hardy shrubs and drought-resistant trees like saxal, plants capable of anchoring soil and slowing toxic dust storms. These are small victories, but critically important for survival. In the South, the mission is not restoration, it's endurance. A global warning. The story of the Aral Sea is not just a regional tragedy, it's a global one. The disaster reveals a brutal truth. When we push ecosystems past their limits, they don't bend, they break. The world today faces similar pressures. Rivers diverted, lakes shrinking, wetlands destroyed, aquifers overdrawn, climate patterns destabilized. The Aral Sea is not an isolated cautionary tale, it is a preview. The lesson the ships whisper. Walk among the ghost ships and you will hear something unexpected. A message, a warning, a plea. These rusting hulls are not ruins, they are monuments. Reminders that progress without ecological wisdom leads to collapse. Symbols showing that a sea can vanish, not over millennia, but within a single lifetime. But the North Aral proves something equally important. Destruction is not the end of the story. Restoration is possible, but only if we choose it. The Aral Sea may never return as it once was, but its message is timeless. Water is life, balance is survival, and the cost of arrogance is written in sand where waves once rolled. The sea is gone, the ships remain, and their story must not be forgotten.